guys, Danielle McCarthy here from Mind Potential Psychology. Thanks for jumping on the video. Today we have a really special guest with us, Dan Lewin from the Men's Health Dietitian. I'm really excited to have him on board today because he's going to talk to us about a topic that I don't feel gets talked about enough, and that's men's health, and in particularly men's body image, and also how that relates to mental health concerns. So I think it's such an incredibly important topic. So I'm really, really excited to have Dan on the line with us today. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Danny. How you going?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. Thanks for coming on board today and doing this interview with me.
My pleasure. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So before we get into it, can you just, for the sake of our audience, give us a little bit of a rundown on where you're from and what you do?
Okay, awesome. So I'm based on the Sunshine Coast, similar to you, and I'm an accredited practicing dietitian and the founder of the Men's Health Dietitian, as you mentioned. I have a special interest in the treatment of eating disorders, disordered eating, and body image concerns, specifically in the male population. And, I also work with men with other clinical presentations like chronic disease management, gut and bowel health, and also sports nutrition.
Yeah. Okay, awesome, great. And so I guess in my practice in particularly as a clinical psychologist in the clinic, we see a lot of women with body image issues and concerns. It's really common. But I guess what you're saying is that these concerns can also occur in the male population. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. Negative body image or body image concerns, they're not gender biased. They're not just, women's issues. And research is actually showing that just as many men are dissatisfied with their bodies as women. So wow. it really is, an issue in the male population.
Yeah, not just an issue, an incredibly common one by the sounds of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And what sort of, what are you noticing with the men you're seeing? What are you finding that they're dissatisfied about your body? How is it presenting?
Yeah, sure. We live in a culture that has this masculine body image ideal, and it's typically one body type, and that's the athletic, muscular physique. The main concern I'm noticing with men is around muscularity. So really having, a high lean muscle mass and low body fat. I guess what you would typically picture as that ripped look. And I guess the challenge is that even though that image is unrealistic and unattainable for the majority of men, if a man compares himself or measures himself against that body image ideal, he can really experience intense body dissatisfaction and really become fixated or preoccupied with trying to change the way he looks.
Yeah,
but it's that drive muscularity.
Wow. Yeah, right. Okay. And can this have an impact on their mental health? So if they are really getting caught up in this and it's preoccupying a lot of their mental headspace and whatnot, can it have impacts on their mental health?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, having a negative body image can really diminish quality of life because it's often breeds other problems. So it's associated with depression, anxiety, reduced self-esteem, interpersonal issues and social anxiety, and also even it can negatively impact sexual intimacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
all of those things affect a man's mental health for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So wow, so quite a lot of impacts on their mental health by the sounds of it, which is quite upsetting. So how would a male identify that they are experiencing body image concerns that might actually be being detrimental on their health and well-being? How would they know?
There's a couple of things to look out for, I guess, and the first thing would be when, if a guy is trying to change his body shape rather than his body image. Okay. And I think this is really an important distinction to make because our body image has nothing to do with the reality of how we look. It's pretty complex and encompasses our perceptions, our attitudes and beliefs and reactions towards our body image. So instead of addressing our body image for guys who are trying to change the way they look, that's a flag. Right? And another thing is, I like to refer to the 4 Ps. So if a man is avoiding certain practices, like maybe not being in photographs, or if he's avoiding places, he might not go to the beach because he doesn't want to take his shirt off.
Yeah.
If he's avoiding certain people, right? So he might be avoiding good-looking members of the sex that he's attracted to, and poses. So he might be standing or sitting in a way that, takes away from a body part that he is being challenged by. So, in other words, he's adopted these behaviors to avoid or escape, feeling about his body, really, having bad feelings about his body.
Yeah, okay. I really like that, the 4 Ps. So it was, to summarize, was it photographs, people, places, and poses? Did I get them? Practices,
people, poses. What do we got? People. Did we say people? Poses, practices, and places.
Yeah. Oh, God. I think I might have been right there the first time. So.
I think you said photos, which is the practices.
Oh, okay, practices. Yeah, good, awesome. I like that. That's an easier way to remember. Not that we did a very good job of it just then, but yeah, I like it. Okay, cool. So if they were noticing they were avoiding or kind of engaging in one of those behaviours, in those 4 Ps, that might be a time when they might want to seek help or support around it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if a guy's body image concerns are affecting his ability to live his life according to his values and to have a meaningful life, it's worth seeking treatment. Yeah, certainly. There's certainly some other indicators on top of the 4 Ps. So I think 2 of the most common are, dieting or calorie restriction and over-exercise.
Okay,
because
dieting.
That's probably the first 2, probably the first 2 activities that people will turn to try and change the shape of their body.
Okay.
And then as things progress, it might be training through illness or injury. They might become stressed or anxious if they miss a training session. Certainly I mentioned the word preoccupation before. It's like being preoccupied with bodybuilding or weightlifting or muscle toning. So a guy can ask himself, well, how much time or what percentage of the day is he thinking about his body or food, and wanting to manipulate it or feeling bad about his body? And certainly, really, I guess, red flag would be the use of anabolic steroids. To obviously manipulate, muscle mass. And unfortunately, it's becoming, the use of steroids is becoming really prevalent amongst males. And it's not actually necessarily the sporting population. It's actually the general population of males who are using, who are the bulk users of the steroids to try and change their body shape to fit into that body image ideal.
Okay, wow, gee whiz. And so say a male, he's just identified like, whoa, okay, I do have some issues around my body image and my shape, and I am, engaging in excessive exercise or dieting or even steroid use. I need to get some support. What might that support look like? Like, what does treatment look like for a male with body image issues?
Yeah, sure. So the first step is to, always consider the current influences, events, and experiences in everyday life that's shaping the way that, that guy is thinking and feeling and reacting around his body. Right? So by identifying those things, right, we can then use evidence-based models to develop a positive body image. So strategies like mindfulness, self-monitoring, reframing and challenging cognitive distortions to reduce those behaviors that aren't serving his values.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, what happens if somebody does have body image issues, like a male's got body image issues, they're having quite a significant impact on his life in a negative way, and he doesn't seek treatment? What are 3 negatives that might come from not taking action?
I think clearly poor mental health,
Yep.
social isolation, and it can even lead to the development of a clinically diagnosed eating disorder.
Wow. Yep. Wow. Okay. On the flip side, he does take action and does seek some support and get treatment. What are 3 potential positives?
Increased self-acceptance and self-esteem, a balanced approach to nutrition and movement or physical activity, and I think just in general, living a meaningful life.
Yeah.
And I think that's really big, just, value-based living.
Yep, being able to engage in those things that are meaningful to us without the constant preoccupation and whatnot of body image issues and striving to be something different, impacting on that.
Having the space to do all of those other things and to have the energy to think about the other things that actually matter in life beyond, those body image issues and looking a particular way.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And just like on a side note, like it just got me thinking about, the male population and like, you hear saying like body image issues is so prevalent, like just as prevalent as females or whatnot. And we see, like I said, a lot of females with these issues, but we don't see many men. Like, is this a hard thing for men to seek treatment for? Or are they not being aware that it's an issue? What's going on there? Because we don't see that many males walking through the clinic with this as a concern, but you're saying it is a concern, and it is actually prevalent.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of both. I think, there's certainly a stigma that still exists with men seeking treatment or support for their health concerns, including, body image issues. And I think around, body image, negative body image awareness, I think that one of the biggest challenges is that, in our society, over exercising or those unhealthy eating behaviors, in the pursuit of looking a particular way are actually often seen as normal in the male population and actually, are often actively encouraged. So it's like it's a whole different message that, and it's like, they're being encouraged to ignore the fact that they have these concerns because of the pressures to look a particular way.
Yeah, right. So a number of factors why we might not be actually seeing them walking through the clinic. And I know you yourself, you're doing, a lot of your services done online, like over telephone or Skype. Is that how you do it? Is that to get around some of those barriers?
Yeah, absolutely. It provides guys with a safe space to talk about their eating and body image concerns. They can talk wherever they're comfortable. They don't have to travel. There's no waiting rooms. And, it's about breaking down as many barriers as possible so that guys do feel comfortable to talk to someone.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Like, it's so good that you're focused on, I guess, addressing some of those barriers, because obviously there is these issues with getting men through the door, and it sounds like you're trying to start to address them to make it a more accessible service, because it is a much needed one. So that's awesome. Before we finish up, like for people watching this video and obviously in a population where it might be hard for them to seek the treatment they need, can you give them like 3 tips that they might be able to walk away with today and start putting into place to start helping them love and improve their body image?
With pleasure. So both internal and external factors can influence our body image. So I want to start with a tip that's quite broad, and that is just having a think about, how you view the external world. And I'm going to use an analogy, to help this. So let's say you want to, buy a red sports car. When you have that in mind, all of a sudden, you're just going to start seeing red sports cars everywhere on the road, right? You don't really see that there's 10,000 other different types of cars. It's kind of like when we have particular body image goals and we want to look a particular way, we just start to see that one particular body all around us, and we forget that we live in a size-diverse world, which is something that should actually be celebrated. So, the tip there is really just to be mindful of the world around us and the broad range of body shapes and sizes that we see on a daily basis.
So what you're saying is that I was just, I've got a 4-month-old baby, as a lot of people would know, and when I was pregnant, I was so sure there was so many more pregnant women out there. Are you saying that that's not the case? That everybody wasn't pregnant at the same time as me? Because I saw everywhere I looked, there was pregnant women. I don't remember there ever being that many pregnant women around.
Yep, that was likely the case. It was on your mind. That's the image you had. That's where you were going in your life. And so you just start to see it everywhere. Yeah.
It's like a distortion, isn't it? Yeah, you got this filter where you're just seeing that, but it doesn't mean it's actually more common than it.
Tunnel vision, Danny. It's quite incredible. And, I guess in a similar vein, so the next tip is it's also an external factor. And it is also around imagery, which is so powerful in shaping, our body image. And the tip is around social media feeds. So, this might seem elementary, to some, a really basic thing. But, the research is quite interesting in this area where, looking at images of the body image ideal, if we don't fit that ideal, we can start to develop a negative body image within 2 to 3 minutes of looking at those kind of images. So,
wow.
It's incredible. So if someone's social media feeds is full of, bodybuilding pages or Fitspo, just ask yourself, is that affecting how I'm thinking about my body after looking at those things? And if it is, maybe it's time to re-examine those pages and maybe unlike them or delete them, and find pages that make you feel good about yourself.
Love it. Yeah, I really love it. Like, so it's, tip number 1 was like becoming self-aware of the impact that, potential filters and whatnot might have. And tip number 2 is the social media. It's so prevalent in our lives now. And, being bombarded with these images any time of day, all day, if we choose, can actually have a really negative impact on our mood and well-being. And so if we notice that happening, unlike them, delete it, get rid of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, spot on.
Tip number 3.
Yep, number 3. So tip number 3, it's also about an element of mindfulness, and that's being mindfully aware of our inner conversations, right? Particularly those conversations that are around physical appearance. So this allows us to take a step back from our subjective experience and just try and look at it objectively. So there's some questions that the listener can ask themselves. Right? What am I feeling? What just happened that led me to feel this way? What am I saying to myself in this situation? And how am I reacting behaviorally and emotionally towards this experience? So someone might, internalize that, just ask themselves in their mind, or they might want to keep something like a body image diary, right? The typical ABCs, right? What are the activators or triggers? What are your beliefs? And what are the consequences, of that put together? What are your behaviors following all of that? So, and all of that's internal work. That's the deepest stuff. That certainly has to be worked on. I think incongruence really with external factors to develop a positive body image. And I guess something you actually mentioned before, Danny, if I may quickly, if we hate our bodies, moving to a place of self-acceptance, is often a really good goal, like being neutral towards our body rather than self-love. It can take many years to actually get to that self-love, but being neutral is actually a really good goal just for many people to start with. If you've been in a place where you've hated your body for some people it's decades, it could be their whole life. Getting to self-love is not going to happen overnight. So there's a progression.
It's scary for them. So it might be too big a step to begin with, where you're sort of saying like not even a baby step. I think for some people who have a really negative self-image, even just getting to a neutral standpoint, that's a massive, massive leap.
Yeah. Yep. And I think it's, bringing that expectation down to something as manageable as neutral, I think is actually really helpful for a lot of people, men or women, to be honest. Yeah.
Yep. No, and I mean, I found all three of your tips like definitely applicable to the female population as well. So not just the male population. So if there are females listening to this, these are tips that they can do as well.
Definitely.
Yep. Awesome. I love it. Great tips. Did you want to just quickly summarize the 3 tips before we finish up?
Yeah, absolutely. So consider how you're viewing the external world. We live in a size diverse world.
Yep.
Do some mindful self-monitoring and keep a body image diary if that helps you. And thirdly, it's around your social media feed. How are images that you're looking at impacting your mood and your body image?
And unlike is basically a good summary.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. You don't need to see that stuff.
Yeah.
Good. I love it. I'll be blunt about it. Just unlike it, delete it. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Dan. I found that really, really useful myself, and I hope that our listeners did as well. So anybody who is listening, if you feel that this has been useful, like it or share it with somebody you think that may find this helpful. If people have questions, Dan, or would like to follow this up with some, further clarification or whatever, is there a way that they can contact you?
Yeah, thanks, Danny. So people can email me at info@themenshealthdietitian.com.au. I'm also on Facebook /themenshealthdietitian. And of course, my website, www.themenshealthdietitian.com.au.
Remember, the Men's Health Dietitian. Cool. And if you forget all else, just PM us on our Facebook page and we'll be able to direct you in the right place. So Thank you so much again, Dan, for joining us, and I hope everybody found that useful. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now. See you, Dan. Yes.